to record. All right, so there's my office hour link. I get lonely in office hours. The last exam, there's 2 exams in this class. So is there extra credit? No, because I give you all the tries you want on your homework. I give you multiple tries on the quizzes. I kind of feel like you should be able to take a test. All right, now I will tell you the second test is a little different. I did give you guys 2 tries on that because some of them are like free response. So I figure you should have 2 tries. There's another exam, and the way that I did the other exam, it came out kind of during awkward time, right during that Thanksgiving week. So not this week, but next week. And so I'm giving you the option of taking it any day between the 25th and the 30th. So let me explain that to you. The 26th is Thanksgiving. So if you want to get it done before Thanksgiving, that's fine. You need to get through 10.3 if you're going to do it that way. Okay, because the test is up through section 10.3. All right. Now, that's kind of pushing it in my book. Monday is the 30th. That would be my preferred date that you take the test because that's after Thanksgiving. You've had time to get your stuff done, and it's Monday, you're back at school. So you have till the 30th at midnight. It'll open on the 25th simply because of Thanksgiving. All right. And it's up through 10.3. All right. So that's kind of how I'm going to do this. With that particular test, you will have 2 tries because there are free response. All right. But I'll explain that next week. Okay. So anyway, so that's your other test. So you want to do well on that. Typically last 8 weeks, they did do better on that test. I think they started kind of woke up a little bit, and the average, like you guys did better in IJ than last semester in my average, and then KL did worse. So I mean, I don't know, but I've never seen this is a big variation. But anyways, so not this week, but then next week we'll have our second test. We really don't have that much left. Chapter 10 is the last chapter. We're going to cover chapter 5 this week. Okay, so when we talked about the timing, you should, when you got 90 minutes, you go back and review your answers. The Q drop date, if you find yourself, the other reason I want to get the test in was before the Q drop, which is 11:30. So if I get the test in before then you'll know, hey, I better, sail out, right? Don't forget to Q drop. If you're going to Q drop or if you're going to drop, make sure that you drop because you don't want this to count your GPA, right? So, okay. All right, so this week we're going to cover 4 sections, all right? 5.1 and 10.2 are asynchronous. This week we're covering 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, and 10.2. 10.1, there's not much to it, and there's no homework and there's no video, so you can just skip it unless you want to look at it, but there's nothing there, okay? So my plan for this week, 5.1 is in sync with finance, so we're in pretty good sync with her right now. I haven't put up a discussion forum in 5.1. I will, all right, probably today or tomorrow. We're going to cover 5.2 and 5.3 in class. So today we're going to cover 5.2, and Thursday we're going to cover 5.3. There's no lecture or homework over 10.1. It's background material, so, and 10.2. So 10.2, the video is already up there. I set it for this week. The homework is not due till the following Sunday, just because there's no reason, because 10.2 and 10.3 are pretty closely tied together. So I put the homework due for that. It'll be due with 10.3 the following Sunday. But you have to do those before your test, okay? Because my plan is, so we'll do 5.2, 5.3, 10.1 is asynchronous. So there's already a video up there. Not 10.1, 10.2 is asynchronous. There's already a video over there. And 10.3 would be for next week. 10.3 will be asynchronous because next week we only have Tuesday and then we have Thanksgiving break. So I'm going to review for your test next Tuesday. Okay. So make sure that you're watching those videos. Those asynchronous things are an expectation, right? That you're doing those as well. And I'm not seeing the links on YouTube getting a lot of hits, or about half. Okay, I got you, Eduardo. All right. So after Thanksgiving, so this week, we're going to cover 5.1 through 5.3 and 10.2. The homework 5.1 through 5.3 is due Sunday night along with a quiz. All right, quiz 4. All right, so those are already up and going in Math Lab. Remember, after Thanksgiving, we are not meeting in person anymore. I mean, we're not meeting in person anymore, okay? So after Thanksgiving, everything is entirely online, all right? So you will log into Zoom. It's not asynchronous. It's your regular classroom hours. You will log into Zoom, and I will take attendance just like I do here, okay? Everybody good with that? Okay. All right, so the homework due Sunday night is 5-1 through 5-3. 10-2, I pushed it back just till the next Sunday. I mean, you can do it if you want, but you'll see it's not due till next Sunday. There's a quiz due Sunday night. Now, the quiz that's due Sunday night is only over chapter 5. Okay, we'll hit chapter 10 next. All right, so that's kind of the plan for the week. Everybody clear on what we're doing? So for this week, 5-1, 5-2, 5-3, and 10-2. Okay, 5-1 and 10-2 are videos. They're up there already. 5-2 and 5-3, we're going to do class. Okay. If you have not taken the tests, hopefully I'd get an email real quick. All right. So if you're planning on staying in. All right. Let me get the stuff up. All right. So just to kind of mention where I'm at. So, there's a video on 5.1 up there. It's solving quadratics by factoring. And then I want to do today, I'm going to talk a little bit about a quadratic inequality because it's on the video and you should watch it, but I just want you to see it, me talk about it, okay, in live. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick on page 117. All right. And today we're going to talk about the quadratic equation, all right, for solving quadratics. We solve by factoring, or we will solve by factoring. You can also solve using the quadratic equation. I do not recommend the quadratic equation, okay? This for me is the last resort. The reason being that if something factors, it's a lot easier to factor than it is to work the quadratic, in my opinion. The quadratic takes too much time. And people struggle with working it. So that's why I don't suggest unless you absolutely have to. What else do I want to tell you about the quadratic? There's something else I want to tell you. I mean, factoring is always my first choice. A calculator is my second choice, and then the quadratic is my third choice. So the quadratic is like my absolute least favorite way to solve an equation. Problem with it is you do have to memorize it. You're going to use it, right? So, so what it is with a quadratic equation, you have something of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. It's really important to remember it has to equal 0. If it doesn't equal 0, you can't factor it. You can't use the quadratic. It has to equal 0. All right, so all you do is plug it into this formula. You guys learned the song to memorize it? No? Oh, I'm going to have to sing the song, okay? There's actually 2 versions. There's one to Pop Goes the Weasel, and there's one to Row 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 Your Boat. So I'll do Pop Goes the Weasel, all right? And the way that you memorize it, all right, I'm singing. This is rare. All right, no, it's not rare, but okay. All right, ready? Okay, it's x equals opposite b plus and minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, so that's the quadratic equation to Pop Goes the Weasel, all right? X equals opposite b, which means change the sign, right? Plus and minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so there we are. I did it. I sang the song, okay? All right. Yay, okay. There's also one to Row 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 Your Boat, but we won't go there. We'll just leave it like that, okay? But what I'm saying is, yeah, you got to memorize. You're going to use it. So we're gonna solve this thing. So solving means we're finding where this thing crosses the x-axis. So one of the things I want to mention to you guys, a couple things. Like I said, quadratic would be my first choice. So first thing I'm going to do is solve it by factoring, just to show you how easy it is to factor. All right. So remember, with factoring, we multiply the first and the last. So 8 times 3 is negative 24. I need factors of negative 24 that add to 10. All right, so let's see, what would that be? What do we need? Okay, so 4 and 6 might work, but the problem is I have to get a negative 24 out of it. So that's not going to work because they don't have to both be positive, and I need one of them to be negative. So that's not going to work. So we need another set. Another set of factors, guys.
Negative 12 and 2.
Good, all right, close, all right. We want a positive 10, right? So how about we change that around a little bit, make it 12 and negative 2, right? Okay, so we got it. So remember, with factoring, I do kill the common factor. So you copy the lead term. Step 1, copy the 3. So you have 3x and 3x. We do plus 12 minus 2 And then we kill the common factor. So I can take a 3 out of these guys. So this becomes x plus 4, and I can't take anything out of the other guy. So the deal with factoring is once you have it factored and it has to equal 0, for that to be 0, either this guy has to be 0 or this guy has to be 0. So I set x plus 4 equal to 0, and I subtract 4, so I get x equals -4. Or I could set 3x minus 2 equal to 0, move the 2 over, and divide by 3, so I get 2/3. So those are the answers by factoring, all right? That to me is a better choice than quadratic equation because it's easier, okay? Factoring is probably done more often than quadratic anyways. In math classes, whoops. Now my other option, just while I'm sitting here talking, where's my calculator? You can always find zeros on the calculator and if they're real, which is probably all you're going to ever care about. Come on. So to solve for zeros on the calculator, it's actually quite simple. You go into y equals, and I am solving 3x squared plus 10x minus 8 equals 0. So I'm going to type it. Type the left-hand side. 3x squared plus 10x minus 8. Type that side in and type 0 on the other side. And just hit graph. And you can see, I mean, it crosses, yeah, you can see this one's -4, but we're going to go find them. You can find the intersection by hitting second, trace, 5 is intersect. And press enter 3 times. And I get an intersection of 0.6666, whatever, that's 2/3. And I go find the other one the same way. I'm going to move the cursor, though, this one down nearest the other intersection, which is down here. Press enter a couple times, 3 times, and I get -4. Okay, so the calculator can solve it. You can solve it by factoring. If you absolutely have to, you can use the quadratic equation, which is what we're going to learn today. It's not my favorite way to factor these things, not in any way. All right, but we're going to do it. All right, because they want me to. All right, so when I have an equation like this, all I have to do is figure out what A, B, and C are. So A is the number with x squared, so A would be 3. B is the number with x, so B is 10, and C is -8. All right, make sure you take the signs with them. So you see I just picked it right here. Here's your A, here's your B, and here's your C. Okay, so we're just going to plug them into the equation, which she did kind of sight unseen. So I'm gonna write the equation. I usually like to write the equation first. Plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So negative b means just change the sign of b. So if b is positive, it becomes negative. So it's going to be a -10 plus or minus the square root of b squared. I do this in my head. If I square 10, it's going to be 100 minus 4. A is 3 and c is -8. And that's all over 2a. So 2 times 3, 6. Okay. So what I would suggest doing, I'm going to plug that number into the calculator first because the square root you have to simplify first. So I'm going to do 100. I'm just going to go on my calculator and pull that down so you guys can see it. I'm going to do 100 minus 4 times 3 times -8. And I get the square root of 196 all over 6. So the square root of 196 is going to work out evenly. I get 14. So I get -10 plus or minus 14 all over 6, right? So this gives me 2 solutions with a plus or minus. So now I'm going to split them apart. So I get -10 plus 14 over 6 and -10 minus 14 over 6. So if I work this, -10 plus 14, I get 4/6 which is really 2/3, which is one of my solutions, right? And the other one, I got -10, I get -24/6, which is -4. So the solutions are there from the quadratic as well. The thing about the quadratic is it always works, it always gives you the exact solution. Sometimes you have something like the square root of 5 and on a calculator you're gonna round it, but the quadratic will always give you all solutions, all right? But it is long. Okay, so my suggestion to you is I would only use the quadratic when they make me, okay, which isn't gonna be that often. All right, any questions about that? Are we doing okay? Okay. What I'm gonna do is write myself a little note here. Just a second, I'm making a note here. Okay, interesting. Okay. All right, so we're going to solve this using quadratic. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to take note that A is, if I look at this, A is 2, B is 3, and C is 1, right? So we just got to plug it right into it, okay? So X equals, write the equation down, plus and minus square root B squared minus 4AC all over 2A, all right? So there's my equation. All right, we just plug it in. So negative B in this case is -3 plus and minus the square root. If I square 3, I'm going to get 9. A is 2 and C is 1 all over 2A. So 2 times 2 is 4. All right. I'm going to simplify the square root first. The square root in this case, 4 times 2 is 8. So I get 9 minus 8. It will work out to the square root of 1. Plug it in a calculator if you need to. Well, the square root of 1 is 1. So my solutions become -3 plus 1 over 4 and -3 minus 1 over 4. So there's always two solutions. This is going to become -3 plus 1 is -2. So I get -0.5. And -3 minus -1, I get -4. Whoops. Which works out to be -1. So there's my quadratic. Okay. So as long as you can plug numbers in, we're okay. Mornings. When I taught this way back in Algebra 2, I remember that, this first number, when you square a negative, it's always going to be positive. So B squared is always positive, all right? If it comes out negatives because your parentheses rounded. Make sure you change the sign. If it's negative, it becomes positive. And when you divide by 2A, you have to divide the whole thing by 2A, not just part of it. Okay, so those are the things that I remember. So, but let's work this next one. All right, so in this case, A is 3, B is -8, and C is 4. And again, I'm just plugging them into a formula. I'm going to write the formula down. All right. So we're going to plug stuff in. All right, so this is where you have to be careful. When B is negative, so a negative is positive. So the -8 turns into a +8, right? So we always change the sign of B there. Plus and minus the square root. Now, when you square -8, it is going to be positive. So it's going to be 8 times 8 is 64. The reason that people mess this up, you plug it into a calculator and you just type it -8 squared. And that's going to give you a -64, but that's not what we want. We are squaring the whole thing. So we do -8 and then we square it. So it becomes a +64. So one of the things I keep in my head is that B squared in front is always positive no matter what. All right, so -4, A is 3, and C is 4. all over 2a. So 2 times 3 is 6. All right, so I'm going to work with what's inside the square root first. So it's 64 minus 4 times 3 times 4. So 64 equals 16. All right, that's a nice number. So I get 8 plus or minus the square root of 16 over 6. But I know that the square root of 16 is 4. So it's 8 plus or minus 4 over 6. So I get one solution of 8 plus 4 over 6 and another solution of 8 minus 4 over 6. So I get 12 over 6 is 2. And I get 4 over 6, that's going to be 2/3. Okay, so those are my solutions. Okay, so this is the quadratic equation. It's not my favorite thing to use. I really avoid it whenever I can, right? I would much rather factor it or solve it on my calculator. But if I have to, I have this available. Okay, is that all right? Okay, any questions on quadratic equation? Okay, so that's what your homework's over on 5.2. 5.1 is solving by factoring. That is up with a video and online. Okay, all right, so we're going to jump to the, whatever this is, the 1324 help. Oh, no, before I do that, I do want to talk about this. I'm gonna work one of the things you have to do in 1325. I'm on page, by the way, you have a video over this, but I really want to talk about it. Page 116, solving quadratic inequalities. You're going to have to do it in 1325. So I want to kind of talk about some shortcuts and things you can do to help yourself. If I can factor these, I do. I mean, you start off with factoring. You have to find the zero. So step one, you figure out where it equals 0. So I set x squared plus 5x minus 6 equal to 0. And I factor this. So factors of -6 to add to 5. This is a tricky one. Are 6 and -1, is that right? Yeah. So this would factor x plus 6, x minus 1. So if I set each factor to 0, if I subtract 6, I get x equals -6 and x equals 1. So I've got the 0, step 1. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put them on a number line. Okay. Now, this inequality, remember this, you have to understand the less than. So I want where this equation is less than 0. Okay. Now, there's sign tests and things you can do, but you really don't need to with a calculator. What I'm going to do is graph it on the calculator. So I'm going to do clear. What was the equation? X squared plus 5x minus 6. All right, we're going to graph them. All right, so one of the things that is really, really helpful for this is I want to know where it's less than 0. So less than 0 is anywhere the graph falls below the x-axis. So I'm just going to sketch this graph then here. And so wherever it goes above, it's greater than 0. So it's positive here. This is where it's greater than 0, where it's above, and this is where it's negative, all right? So the graph can help you get those regions, right? So where it's below, it's negative. Now in this particular problem, I want where it's less than or equal to 0. So I know this is right here. So it goes from -6 to 1. All right, and square brackets because of the equal, okay? So you have a video on this, but I wanted you to see it, all right? Another shortcut that can help you. You can actually type this equation in the calculator, but I'll tell you what it's going to return. So in the calculator, you can actually type less than or equal. So if I go to test, which is second math, so second test, here's all these symbols, all right? So I'm going to go find the less than or equal, which is 6. All right, and then if I graph this, now let me tell you what this does. By writing this equation, where the equation is true, it returns a 1. Where it's false, it returns a 0. So when I graph this, you'll see that it's 1. I can pretty much read it between -6 and 1, so that would be my solution. So wherever the thing equals 1, that's part of my solution. So that can help you a little bit, okay? So this is just some techniques to help you with some of this stuff, okay? You'll be doing a lot of this in 1325. All right. So, but to get to the inequalities, it's second test, second math, and they're all there, okay? All right, so that's that. All right, now I'm gonna go up and talk about 1325. So we'll go talk about, where are you? You gotta go up much more. So you guys are starting finance, which I love the finance unit because it's super practical. I'll tell you guys first that all the 5.1's on a video. So we're gonna go to 5.2. My oldest son just bought his first house ever. And my youngest son just tried to finance his first car ever. So they both kind of had some things to deal with. Some things I learned about houses. I've never dealt with not FHA, but the other one, when you buy your very first home, sometimes you get a VHA. My son did that. And I learned some stuff that I didn't know. I mean, I thought I knew it all, but he almost lost the loan because grandma gave him a gift toward his down payment. And if you don't disclose that, and they wanted a year of her bank records to verify the money was valid, and she wasn't going to give him that. So they almost disqualified the loan. They did not, but I was really scared because I thought grandma's going to make this thing be disqualified. But anyways, I will be going out you guys will. I'll be going to Florida Thursday, actually go see him and see his first house. So, but anyways, my younger son just tried to buy his first car with a loan, and his problem is, I will tell you, I learned he has no credit because he's never had a credit card because, we paid for stuff while he was in college, and he never got a credit card, so they won't finance his car loan. So he's got to figure that out. Okay. So it's a good idea to start developing credit when you're young, not get in debt, but start developing credit so that you don't have the problem that my younger son has now, that he can't buy a car because he can't get a loan, he doesn't have any credit. All right, so let's talk about finance. So 5.1, there's a video up talking about simple interest. There's a wonderful app in your calculator. There's a finance app, and I use it all the time. I use it when I go get a car loan, so I know what my payments are. I've caught dealerships being dishonest. Caught one, I was paying $20 more a month. I said, why am I paying $20 that I didn't count on? And he said, well, we charged you for pinstriping. And I said, well, I didn't want pinstriping, so you can take that charge off my loan, which they did. But I mean, I caught them. So I've learned a long time ago to check these guys. You cannot trust just because somebody says this is your payment. You should always check. All right. So now the interest that you get when you get a loan or when you get an annuity, most interest these days is compounded. What we're going to talk about, simple interest, I talked about 5.1. Simple interest is where they apply the interest at the end of the loan and you have to pay that. It is very, very uncommon to have a simple interest loan. Most loans are compounded. All right. In fact, they're usually compounded monthly. All right. When you have a credit card and you let that bill ride for a month or two, a lot of times the credit rate on those can be anywhere from 15 to 21% annually. You don't want to let that ride. But there's other percentages right now. I think a mortgage is like, he got 3% on his mortgage. I think we have 1.5 on ours. So anyway, so there's things to be considered, but most financing is compound interest. So we're going to talk about annuity. An annuity is just a fancy word for a savings account. It's money I'm putting into an account to hopefully gain money and get some extra money. That's what an annuity is. It's a Christmas fund. An annuity is a sequence of payments made at regular time intervals. So, I might put $100 a month away toward Christmas with interest, and whatever I have in 12 months, that's my Christmas fund. All right, so that's what we're going to talk about today. So Gary plans to deposit $400 at the end of every week into an account that earns at the rate of 6.5 to 6.25%. Okay, so let's compounded weekly. Show the next few periods of activity on the account. Okay, so when you compound interest, you're applying the interest weekly. So there's 52 weeks in a year. So every week they're giving you 1/52nd interest of the money you put in the account. All right, so you're getting 1/52nd when you're doing it weekly because there's 52 weeks of the interest every month, every week. All right, so he put $400 in the first week. Yay. All right. So the second week, he's going to earn interest on that. So the interest he's going to earn is going to be $400 times the interest rate. You're going to write that as a decimal. 0.0625, that's how I write that as a decimal. And I'm only going to get 1/52nd of it, right? Because I'm just doing 1 week's worth of interest. There's 52 weeks in a year. So this would be the interest that he's going to make. I'm going to plug that in a calculator. Once I find my calculator. All right, here we go. Come on. All right, so I'm going to do 400 times 0.0625 over 52. All right, so he's going to get 48 cents in interest if I round it. All right, and he's paying another 400 in the second week. So now in his account, he's going to have $400.48 with the 1 week's worth of interest. So in this third week, he's going to get interest, not on the 400, but now on, oh no, I'm sorry. I put another 400 in, so he's now going to have 800, right? $800.48 because he put 400 in, right? All right. Basically what I did was I added $400.48. All right. So now I'm going to get interest on that. So I'm going to take 848. And I'm going to multiply by the interest rate, which is 0.0625. And again, 1/52. So I'm going to divide by 52. Now I get 96 cents. All right. So let me write this down here. I took $800.48 and I multiplied by 0.0625 over 52. So now I've made 96 cents of interest. And I've deposited another $400, all right? So to get the balance, I'm going to take what's in there. I'm going to add $400.96. So 848 plus 496. All right, so now I have 1201.44. All right, now I'm going to get interest on that. So I take what's in there times the interest rate over 52. That would be my interest times 0.0625 over 52. So the interest is $1.44. I'm going to put another $400 in there. So I'm going to take 1201.44. I'm going to add my interest, which is $1.44. And I'm going to add $400, I guess. All right, so 1602.88 by the time I'm done. Okay, so the whole point of compound interest is they're dividing up the interest. So if I compound monthly, I get a 12th of my interest every month. So you're getting interest, basically the second month, you're getting interest on not only your money, but the interest that you made first month. So you get a slightly better rate if they compound it. The more often they compound, the better the rate up until a certain limit. Okay. So in example one, how much did the account have at the end of the fourth period? Well, I'll just read the chart. 1602.88. And how much did he contribute? Well, he did 400 a month for 400. So he did, he contributed $1,600, right? This is his right here, right? His contribution. So the interest would be what I have in there minus what I contributed. So I have $2.88 in interest. Okay. All right, we good? All right, so let's see. For 3 years, Rachel deposited $60 every week into an account to save money for a special vacation. At the end of 3 years, she had $12,000 in the account. How much of that was the interest that she earned? So this is really not something I use in TVM Solver. If they started using TVM Solver with you guys yet? Okay, we'll talk about that on Thursday, okay? But so she put $60 every week for 3 years. So I have to figure out how many weeks there are in 3 years, right? So there's 52 weeks per year, right? Times 3 years. That's how many weeks there are in 3 years. Let me figure out what that is. All right, there's 156 weeks. And she puts $60 in every week, right? So if I multiply by 60, that's how much money she deposited into the account. 156 times 60. So she deposited $9,360 into the account. So at the end of 3 years, she's got this much in. So if I take what I have in there minus what I put in there, that's the interest, right? So the interest equals my ending value. I don't know how to say it. Ending minus my payments, right? All my payments. All right, so the ending is 12,000 minus 9,360, and I just plugged in a calculator. All right, and 2640. So she made 2640 in interest. All right, so okay. It's pretty much common sense stuff. That's what I love about finance, but it's very, very important. We've refinanced and financed several houses, colleges, cars, I mean, you name it. So it's important to get a handle on what you're doing here. All right, so borrowing money, loans. Loans is when I borrow money, right? I have to pay it back plus interest. Okay, so if I borrow from friends or family, they may or may not charge me interest, but borrowing from banks, obviously you have to pay interest. When you pay back a loan, first, mostly everything you're paying in the beginning of a house loan is interest, and as time goes on, you pay less and less interest and more what we call principal. You pay off more of the loan balance. And you're finished when your loan balance is zero. Okay, so we're going to work a loan. It says Dawson borrows $5,100 and will repay it over 4 years with equal payments of $55 made bi-weekly. Okay, so bi-weekly means every 2 weeks. All right, so there's 26, it was 52 weeks, right? So he's making 26 payments a year. Okay. The interest rate is 5.8% compounded bi-weekly. That has to match. Charged on the unpaid balance. All right. So we're going to work, this is what they would call, well, for a house, they would call it an amortization table. For cars, it's a loan table. But so the first thing I'm going to do is figure out, what the interest is going to be and the payment I need to make. Well, the payment, they told me the payment's going to be $55, right, every week. And so my outstanding debt, I borrowed $5,100. So to figure out the interest, what you're going to take is $5,100. And they're going to charge you, they're applying it bi-weekly, so they're going to charge you 1/26 of the interest. So the interest rate is 5.8%. So it's a decimal, that's 0.058. I'm going to divide by 26 because that's how many times I'm charging you interest a year. So I'm going to plug that into a calculator to figure out how much of my payment is interest. I'm going to do 5,100 times 0.058 over 26. So I have to pay $11.38 of interest, just round it. Whoops. Okay, so of the $55, $11.38 is interest. So if I subtract that, whatever's left is what's being applied to the debt. Okay, so I'm going to do 55 minus 11.38. And I get 43.62. That's what the balance is. Okay. So I am applying $43 toward the principal of the loan. That goes back to the payment. The interest goes to the bank and 43.62 goes off your debt. So I'm going to subtract 43.62 to see what my debt is. All right, so I now owe 50.56.38. Okay. So I paid off part of the debt. So what's going to happen is my interest charge is going to go down a little bit now because now I'm paying interest not on 5,100 but on 50.56. All right. So the interest that I'm going to be charged the next month would be my balance for the next bi-week period. I'm going to multiply by the interest rate over 26. So I'm going to do 50, 56, 38 times 0.058 divided by 26. All right, I got 11.28 in interest. See how the interest is going down a little bit because I paid off part of the principal. All right, my payment is still $55. So the amount applied to the debt is the payment minus the interest. So 55 minus 11.28. And I get 43.72. So slightly more taken off my debt. Now I can take off 43.72. 56.38. 56.38. And I'm taking off 43.72. All right, so now my balance is 5,000, oops, dropped it. $5,012.66. All right. So we continue this process pretty much, forever. Every month I pay interest on the balance of my loan. So I'm going to take the balance, which is 5012.66, times the interest rate over 26. Times 0.058 over 26. So I'm going to do times I get 11.18 now in interest I owe them. By the way, this is not linear. It's going down by 10 cents every time. This is not a linear kind of thing. It just happened to look like it is. 55. So to get the amount, I'm going to do 55 minus 11.18. I get 43.82. So I'm going to take off 43.82 now. And 4968.84 is my balance. I owe. All right, we'll do one more month and then you can get the idea. So, but look what's happening is the interest they're charging me goes down. The amount that I'm applying to the debt goes up. So my outstanding debt goes down and it should keep going down until it gets to zero, hopefully. All right, so we do 4968.84 times the interest rate over 26. That's my interest. $5.8 over 26. And I get 11.08 in interest now. It's still going down by 10 cents. It's not linear. 55. So if I do 55 minus 11.08, is 43.92. is what I paid off that month, so or that bi-weekly. So I'm gonna subtract it, and that would be my balance. So I'm gonna do 49, 68, 84. And I'm going to subtract off 43.92. All right, and so now my loan is down to 4,900. Oops, dropped it. 49,24.92. All right, so you see what's happening is over time, the amount of interest that you pay each month will go down as your balance goes down, whereas the amount you pay to principal goes up. You know, we have on our house, I don't know, a 30-year loan, and we're toward the end of our loan now. In the beginning, you're paying mostly all interest. In the end, you're paying mostly all principal. So we're at that point where we're paying mostly all principal, so it's not really worth us to refinance. But so that's one of the things I want you to notice. Because at first, you're paying nothing but interest. All right. Because you notice this in 4 payments, I've really only taken the balance down a couple $100. All right. All right. Is that okay? Any questions about any of this? You guys doing all right? Okay. All right. So let's take a look. We have a question about down payment here. It says Gerald is going to buy a house for $258,000. His down payment will be 15% of the purchase price. How much is his down payment and how much will he borrow? All right, so this is a pretty simple problem. My son had to, on his house, I think he had to put down 10%, which he had been saving for a while. He had to work like 6 days a week to be able to do it, but he actually did it. But let's take 15% of 258. So all I have to do is do 0.15 times 258. And we'll see what the purchase, what we would have to have for down payment. These days, I'll tell you about that. I get $38,700. So to have that house, you would have to have that much in pocket to put down. These days, I think it's 10%. I don't remember what Brett's was, but you know, if you don't put enough down, you also have to buy something called mortgage insurance. Like if you only put 5% down, you might have to buy mortgage insurance because then you're higher risk. But anyway, so there's all kinds of stuff. But that's his down payment. So that goes right to the bank. So for the loan, I take the value of the house minus the down payment. Normally, there's other fees associated when you close on a house. There's you have to pay the bank closing fees and all this, but yeah, okay. But we'll assume there's no closing fees. So 258 minus 38.7. All right. So they would have to take a loan out for $219,300. And that's assuming no closing costs, no points. A point is a percentage of your mortgage. There's all kinds of things that, you know, a point lowers your interest rate. So not these days, interest rates are so low. I'm not sure paying points really does you a lot of good. When I started in college, just to kind of give you guys some history, loans on houses were about 15%. Savings rates for savings accounts were about 12%. They kept dropping and dropping and dropping, and now we're at a point where I think your savings gives you about 0.5%. I don't know, it's very low, and your housing rate is usually about anywhere from 1.5 to 3% on a loan because the loan rates have dropped so much. I wonder if it's ever going to go back up again, you know, because it was at 12% when I was in college. I was making 12% interest on my bank account, but. All right, so let's take a look at another finance problem. It says Jace buys a car at a dealership. He finds himself driving out with a car for which he paid $2,000 cash down and will be making monthly payments of $300 for 5 years, which includes his interest. How much will it end up costing him? So because you're buying a loan, you're taking out a loan, you are paying interest, it'll cost you a lot more than what you think it will, okay? So he's going to pay $2,000. So it's going to cost him $2,000 plus he's making monthly payments of $300. So it's $300 every month, sometimes 12 times a year. times 5 years, right? So that's what the car is going to cost him for real. So I'm going to do 2,000 plus 300 times 12 times for 5 years. So I end up, the car is going to cost him $20,000, okay? That's not a bad price for a car in the States. I think it's kind of average. But that includes interest. So, I mean, yeah, it may not be that good of a car. All right. So your answer from above, is it? Okay, so basically this is going to be what the car costs plus the interest that you paid. All right, so this is going to be more than the price of the car because the 20,000 is everything I paid. So it's the price of the car plus the interest I paid. Okay, here comes the fun one, is a house. You actually end up paying a lot more for a house than you think you do, but then there's other things like your house goes up in value and you own it. So there's that to consider too. But let's take a look at this housing one. The best family are buying a home. The home was priced at $156,000. They put 12% cash down. They will make monthly payments of that for 20 years to pay off the loan. How much will they pay in interest by the time they pay off the note? All right, so we have to do a few things here. We have to figure out how much we're going to pay and what we paid for the house. So, all right, so they put 12% down. So I'm going to take 0.12 times 156,000. Figure out what they put down. Okay, they put down 18,720. That's your down payment. All right, they will make monthly payments of 1,150 for 20 years to pay off the loan. Okay, so let's figure out how much money they're going to pay for this. So 1,150, they're going to pay that every month. So I'm going to multiply by 12. That's how much they pay per year times 20, because we're going to do this for 20 years. So that's how much money we're going to pay over the 20 years for the loan. Let's figure out what that is. Oops. 150 times 12 times 20. So they're going to pay $276,000 total on that loan over 20 years. All right. Now, so the price of the actual money I'm going to spend is going to be the price of all of this, right? This is how much I spent on the house. So the total cost is my down payment plus my payments. It's going to cost me $18,720 plus $276,000 bucks. $276 plus, we'll just do it that way, plus $18,720. So $294,720. All right, so this is what I'm paying. This is what the house was worth, right? So the interest is what I paid minus the value of the loan, or minus the value of the house. So it's $294,720 minus $156,000. That's how much interest they actually paid. It's a heck of a lot of interest. The longer the loan, the more interest you pay. $294,720 minus the price of the house. So they paid a total of $138,000. Whoops. $138,000. Sorry. $138,720 in interest. All right. I wonder what that is per year. Let me divide it by 20. Let's see. If I hit divided by 20, just curious. paying $6,900 a year in interest. All right. So this is the reality with these long-term loans. They're fine to take out a long-term loan, but you have to remember you are paying a lot more than what you paid for the house. Now, there's things they're not considering here, like when you buy a house, your house hopefully goes up in value as time goes on. Like, you know, we bought a house for a certain amount. Our house is probably now double the value that we bought it for. So that you have to consider that you are gaining money that's not represented here. The problem that California has, I have a brother that lived in California and they had problems because the house skyrocketed so fast and they bought a loan at the peak when the values were high. And then the value of the prices dropped. So they ended up owing more in the mortgage than the value of the house. So this, in California, my brother didn't do this, but what a lot of people did was just walk away from the mortgage and take the hit to their credit. So that's the problem that California had. And so that's one of the risks. All right, so let's take a look. Another problem that, you know, you paid a lot of money in interest. Okay. All right, the Smiths purchased a house for $150,000. They have been paying on a loan from Bank A for several years, $1,300 every month. Currently, they still owe $120,000. They're looking into refinancing with Bank B that is now offering a lower interest rate. They have discovered that the new payments with Bank B will be $1,200 every month. Whether they stay with Bank A or go with Bank B, they will still have 10 more years of payments to make. Cost of refinancing is $9,000 should they do it. Okay, so let's go with Bank A. All right. So they're paying $1,300 a month. Currently, they still owe $120,000. All right. So with Bank A, they owe $120,000. Okay. And they're paying $1,300 a month. All right. So they're looking to refinance with Bank B that is now offering a lower interest rate. They have discovered that Bank B, the payments will be $1,200 a month. And they still have 10 years. They have 10 years. The cost of refinancing is going to be $9,000. So let's figure out what their costs are. All right. So if they're paying $1,300 a month for 10 years, so that'd be times 12 times 10. I'm doing that every month. I'm doing it for 10 years. All right, I will spend $156,000. Okay. Now, okay. All right, so that's that. Now these guys, if I do $1,200 a month for 10 years, 12 times a month, 10 years, I will be paying in payments They will be paying $144,000. But it's also going to cost them an additional $9,000 to refinance, right? So if I add that to that, I get $153,000. All right, so even with the $9,000, if they keep both loans for both years, right, they are going to be paying less with Bank B, right? So that's when it's worth it to refinance. If you get a significantly lower interest rate, it may be worth it to refinance, all right? So Bank B, because it's cheaper. Okay, I'm not paying as much as long as I keep the loan the entire time. All right, we'll do one more, and then we'll call it quits for today because it's the same thing, actually. Well, maybe we'll finish that. All right, maybe we'll finish that Thursday. But I want to do one more. I want to do this last example because it is important to understand that when you make payments on your loan, you pay off a loan, you own that much of your house, right? The part that you own is called equity. All right. So one of the things we did when our kids went to college, got 4 of them. pretty close together. We borrowed from the equity in our home to pay for college rather than borrowing out of retirement or some other source. So let's talk about equity. So he says, James purchased a home for $220,000. So I'm just going to tell you that equity is what I own outright. If I paid that much off. All right, he's been paying on the home loan for several years. At this point in time, the home has increased in value by 7%. So that's important to keep in mind. Your home does increase in value. You do own it. So owning is always better than renting, because renting, you're just paying for somebody else. He currently still owes $195,000 on the loan. How much equity does he have in his home? Okay. So think, how much would James pocket if he sold the house at the appraised value and squared up with the bank? So basically, his house value has gone up by 7%. So I'm going to take $220,000 times 0.07, that's 7%. So the house value went up 15.4. So the value of the house now equals $220,000, the original purchase price, plus the 7%. So that's going to be 15.4. So well, I'll just do it plus 220. So here's the current value of his house, 235. Oops. 235,400. That's the value of his house. Now the bank, though, he owns. What does he owe? He owns 195,000, right? So if I pay that off, I'm going to take the value of the house, which is 235,400, minus his payoff figure for his loan, and that's what part of the house that he actually owns. So I'm going to do 235,400 minus what he would pay to the bank, which is 195,000. That's his loan balance. And he owns $40,000 and 40,400. That would be his equity. That's the part of the house he actually owns. Okay, because that's one thing we did when our kids were going to college. We borrowed off the equity in our house to help pay for college because we paid our house for so long. So there's several ways to do it and finance it, but that's one thing to keep in mind is as you go on, you actually own part of your house. And that's money you have that's just sitting in your escrow, in your financial account. All right, I'm going to stop there because I'm out of time. We'll finish these last two examples on Thursday, I think, just to show you them. And we'll talk about the TBM solver and how that works. So this week, you're going to do 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, and 10.2 if you want to, okay? You have a quiz due Sunday. All right, any questions for me? No, okay, well, have a good couple days. I'll see you guys back on Thursday. Thank you. Sure. See you on Thursday.